How'd your family handle that?
They were grossed out. Very grossed out. As was I. My stomach kind of did a thing.
I was going to say, I think I might have vomited.
On tonight's episode of the K12 Tech Talk Podcast, Chris learns to look before he licks. We discuss some updates to the PowerSchool breach, and we spend the majority of the episode talking about the changes we'd like to see in K12 technology practices that we think will have the most impact on district cybersecurity. Thanks for listening.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K12 Tech Talk Podcast. This is episode 198, 2 away from the big 200. We'll talk about that too. I am Josh, Tech Director in Missouri. Been at it for, more than 10 years on the downhill slide. With me is Chris. You are also from Missouri. You are also a Tech Director.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
And hello, Mark. You're wearing is that a crocheted head warmer?
Yeah, it's cold. It's New England is like, what are we at, -7 today? It's cold.
Yeah, we were cold earlier this week. Not that cold, but we were cold earlier this week. Chris's water froze.
It did. It really did.
We were talking before the show. Oh, first, let me talk about NTP.
Tech guys like water, by the way. So I knew exactly what to do when it froze.
Oh,
I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what to do.
The water is not turning on. How many times did people joke with you? Did you pay your bill?
Yeah, can you unplug the water? No, I don't know.
So NTP, one of our biggest sponsors, they've been with us for a while now. I had lunch with David. Texted me yesterday out of the blue at like 9 o'clock. He's like, "Hey, you want to do lunch?" Okay, yeah, sure, let's do lunch, David. So we met. We had a good conversation. Two things I took away from this conversation with David yesterday. One, he swears that he could give away probably sell headshots of us when he goes to visit with K12 customers. He's
For sure.
like, they're so excited, and have you met Mark? So we need to have headshots made and autograph and give them to David when he goes out for site visits. The other thing, David made a comment that, and Zach, his son was with him, that they love listening to the podcast and keeping up to date on episodes because they feel like they have to, because when they go to visit a customer and they ask a question about David's competitive rock skipping or competitive wall climbing skills, they can't look like they don't know what they're talking about. An inside joke, David really does not do competitive wall climbing or rock skipping, but he did swear to me that he is a very good rock skipper yesterday. So no, it was a really good lunch with David. NTP, they sell SentinelOne services, SOC services. They'll monitor your network like a SIEM, however you pronounce that. And I just got a new tool from David called TVM. Not real sure what the acronym stands for, probably like Threat Vulnerability Management, something along those lines.
That sounds perfect.
It sounds great for what it does. Load a client on all your machines. It'll look at the software installed, tell you which ones have CVEs, what patches need to be applied, and then it'll also roll those patches for you. The other really cool thing is there is a standardization feature where it'll tell you how your settings comply with critical controls like CIS's IG1234 and a couple others, NIST standards and a couple other standards. I spent some good time today rolling through the CIS standards, and it literally told me, hey, you need to check these firewall settings. It's a policy. This is the setting you're looking for. Bam. I'm now CIS rule compliant XYZ. Like, amazing tool. So Chris is probably tired of me talking about it because I've done nothing but talk about it for the last 2 days.
And then you started sending screenshots. It's been a lot.
Yeah, I do.
It's been a lot.
Yep, it's cool. I've spent a lot of.
We do. If you get a hold of NTP, ask for K12 Tech Pro or K12 Tech Talk Podcast special pricing, and he'll hook you up.
Maybe he'll send you a headshot. All right, Chris, you're back from Disney with lightsaber in tow.
I built a lightsaber. I picked red. I went power.
Really?
Yeah, it's who I am.
Huh.
I have pride issues, and I want glory. It was really a self like you really learn about yourself when you're building the lifesaver.
You know who else picked red this week? America.
And the only thing I'll say to that, Mark, is so we left Orlando, had a layover in DC. I was telling my son Chase that you get to say that like it was on inauguration day. I was like, we're going to DC for inauguration day. And then like they metered the flights and there was a winter weather advisory and they weren't letting planes in. And we were in DC for a total of like 10 minutes. But we were there.
How cold was it?
I didn't go outside to know. I heard it was very cold. I heard it was very cold.
Really? Okay. I mean, because no, never mind.
Oh, Mark, Mark, if I can refrain, you can refrain.
Okay, yeah, you guys should refrain. My only story too, that I'll tell a partial story and then we'll move on. At Disney, and I won't tell the second part of this. It's just going to be one of those whatever. But true story, we're at this alien whatever restaurant. I think it was like the Aliens, a Toy Story, whatever. I think. Ate some good chicken strips and stuff. We're leaving, and my wife Stephanie's like, "Is that ketchup or blood on your hand?" And I thought that was a ridiculous question. I'm not going to be bleeding, so I full send a lick on my hand of what I thought was going to be ketchup, but it was barbecue sauce instead. And you might be wondering, why does that matter, Chris? Well, it matters because I did not consume. I did not consume barbecue sauce while I was eating my chicken strips and fries. Oh. And then my brain's processing that, and I look over at the alien trash can, and it's dripping in barbecue sauce. I had just thrown away our trays, so I full sent the lick of someone else's barbecue sauce.
Not trash can barbecue sauce. Trash can.
I ate barbecue sauce off of a trash can.
You might as well just lick the trash can.
I mean, they're different colors. The color on your hand didn't like cue you of like, that's not ketchup.
I don't know.
No?
I did. Don't know. Anyway.
He was in the zone. He was in the Disney zone, man. He wasn't seeing colors. He wasn't.
How'd your family handle that?
They were grossed out. Very grossed out. As was I. My stomach kind of did a thing.
I was going to say, I think I might have vomited.
Had a great time though. Built that lightsaber. It's sweet. It's actually in my office at the school now.
Well, sure. You got to keep the bad guys away.
Yeah. Sweet like barbecue sauce.
Anyway.
Was it? Never mind. So Mark, again, every week you just knock it out of the park, curating these stories out of the park. Have you guys heard that phrase before? He knocked it out of the park.
Of course I have.
Well, Mark,
I live in Boston.
Like, it was a joke.
We knock it out of the park all the time here in Boston.
Yeah, all right.
Step on up here, newsboy.
News. All right. We got some AI. We got some cybersecurity. What do you want to start with?
I like AI.
Yeah.
All right. This is a fun one because it's not K12, but like when you think about this one and how it can apply to K12, it scares you. So there's a data protection company called Harmonic Security, and they analyzed some corporate companies' usage of AI, and what they found was pretty interesting and alarming. So I'm gonna go through this one now. Again, this is corporate data. This is not K12, but if you think about how this could be transitioned over to K12, it'll frighten you a little bit. So. They analyzed prompts from Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Anthropic, and the majority of prompts that people entered in are obviously pretty mundane. But what they did find is 8.5% of prompts posed potential security risks. And I'm going to break down of that 8.5%, what categories these things fall into. So 46% exposed customer data. So billing, authentication information, potentially employee client confidentiality information that users were entering into prompts into AI. I would say if that were K-12, you're talking about teachers entering in student data into that. So that's 46, almost half of the prompts that they found that were concerning. That's only 9% were customer data. 27% were employee data, so payroll details, personal identifiers, and even requests for AI-assisted performance reviews. So you're better be sure teachers are doing that too in K-12. So, I got to do my teacher evaluation, upload all this kind of stuff, do student evaluations and IEP stuff, all that kind of stuff. This is where it gets really, really scary. 15% contain legal and finance information. So pipeline data, investment portfolios, mergers and acquisition activity.
Oh, wow.
It gets worse. 7% was security data, penetration test results.
Oh my God.
Network configurations, incident reports.
Yeah, make me more efficient with that report.
And then the last 6% was sensitive code like access keys and proprietary source code. So that's private sector usage of it. I would guess that those numbers are probably going to be increasing a little bit if you were to analyze K-12 data. So that's 1 in 10 prompts into AI was potentially exposing data, sensitive customer employee data in the private sector.
I just did a demo with my curriculum director with one of the fastest growing, most used K-12 AIs. We're looking at pricing for students and staff kind of thing. So we have people using the free account right now. So part of the demo was they're showing who's using it.
Sure.
And the top 10 list, I believe it was 3 or 4 of 10 were all special services people that would be writing IEPs and different things. And yeah, what are they putting in there? I don't know. But it raises some questions very quickly because I wouldn't say that we have professionally developed our teachers well just yet about, what to be putting into AI. So yeah, I think it was number 2 was a very surprising. Oh, wow. What are they using that so much for? And then that their job responsibilities are with data.
Yeah.
So I see this. I'm like, oh yeah, I bet we'd be surprised, right?
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
All right,
Mark, your favorite topic. What is it? What?
Let's
quickly.
I was going to go to the FCC, but let's go to PowerSchool first. So we have been on edge waiting for the PowerSchool investigation report to come out.
You know what I love is that Mark left, school, and then he got this little gig with the school and he's excited about it. He's going to help with student data and they use PowerSchool and then this breach happens.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I feel really bad for you, Mark, but I kind of love it. You're in. I love that your data. I love that. Oh, no, your data didn't get breached or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Oh no, it sure did. Oh yeah, yeah. Gone.
Anyway, but they've promised not to release it.
Just to summarize, I went 11 years as the CIO for the largest district in New England without a breach. 2-3 months into this smallest district in the state, and I get a major international data breach.
But it's not the district's fault.
Sure.
It's not Mark's fault.
No, it's not.
Josh, it's not Mark's fault.
It can't be tied to Mark at all.
No, I didn't make that decision.
Don't blame Mark.
So PowerSchool, summarize what we've learned. Honestly, not a lot. PowerSchool has not come out with their investigation report. We're very eager to find out the details of it. We've seen some kind of hints. There have been a couple of major articles on TechCrunch and Bleeping Computer that have confirmed a few things. One being that PowerSchool did not have MFA on their PowerSource, which is their support portal. So there's a lot of questions after the webinars whether or not PowerSchool did or did not have MFA, or whether it was just insufficient MFA. It does look like they did not have MFA at all in place. The other thing that did come out is that they did suffer. There was another incident in which an engineer's computer was compromised with malware through a browser extension. And then data was exfiltrated from that computer and then sold on the black market. It's possible that sale of data from the engineer's computer then led to the other breach. But right now, we don't have any evidence linking the two incidents to each other. So could be a second incident. It could be the incident that sparked the big one. So those are the two TechCrunch articles that will link to this one, and we will see exactly what comes out from PowerSchool. But I think, other than the FAQs being updated once or twice since we last talked, there really hasn't been too much of a change coming from PowerSchool.
There was a discussion on, I think it was the Bleeping Computer article today or yesterday, that says they spoke with the hackers that did this, and they claim to have, 63 million student accounts and like 9 point something staff accounts informations. Yeah. This person that I'm having this conversation with says, the largest breach, or the largest ransom ever paid in private industry for ransomware, for a ransomware incident, was $75 million. We'll do the math. That's $1.20 for those, let's just
Crazy.
say 75 million for those 63 million students. That's $1.20 per student. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting if that number ever comes out.
Well, speaking of costs, PowerSchool also did confirm that they will be providing credit monitoring for impacted students and adults. So there's at least some good news coming from that side of things.
But wasn't that release worded weirdly that said students over the age of 18?
Yeah, when we talked about that, when I did some research, and Experian and some of the major credit companies don't actually have information on minors. They don't track your credit scores, so it's very hard for them to provide credit monitoring when the companies aren't monitoring the kids in the first place.
Yeah.
That might be the reason for that one. So I don't really want to hold that one against PowerSchool.
No. I just found it was worded strangely.
Yeah. It was
all the more reason to freeze your kids' credits.
Hey, I want to mention too, like subreddit K12 sysadmin been an awesome source. Where as soon as an article hits, it's posted there. We still have that PowerSchool breach special section on K12 Tech Pro. It's been great. Just the K12 community in general, posting stuff, getting stuff out there as quick as they can.
Yeah.
Even some of those articles that I've posted have talked up the community that we know is K12. That's great to work with, K12 Techs.
So if you have, we'll segue that real quick into feedback for us. If you have feedback for us or want to shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. In 2 weeks, we will be celebrating our 200th episode.
So excited.
Chris is the one managing the agenda for the 200th episode, and he says he has guests, secret guests.
It's jam-packed, boys.
How many guests are we talking? Like, Mark and I have no clue what he has worked up.
Let me get my little piece of paper out. I have RSVPs from 2, 4, 6 to 8 people. I'll tell you. There's 2 that are kind of kicking around. These are people that you know,
A-list celebrities,
people that you know their names. Mark doesn't like hints. So I'm not going to really, and Josh just has pure anxiety about this whole thing, but
I think the better litmus test there is, would our parents know the names of these?
And I'm not going to tell you, I can't, but it's going to be a special episode. It's going to come out, that first week of February. If you listen to episode 100, we did this whole, the doorbell rings and someone comes in. It's it was total chaos.
God, that was so
total chaos.
Yes.
Jack Resider from Darknet Diaries came in.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. That was really
Josh
cool.
couldn't even speak.
Yeah. That was neat. Yeah.
This has some hype to it. And I know that it has, I don't know. It's got to be good. I feel pretty good about it.
Should I dress up that night?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
You want to talk about one of our advertisers, Lightspeed, real quick?
Yeah, Lightspeed, a proud sponsor of our podcast. They're hanging out with us for all of 2025. They can help you. They're mostly known for content filter, but they can help you with insights into app usage, student safety monitoring, classroom screen monitoring, device health, all that kind of stuff. They have a lot of different products they can help you with, mostly known for content filter. I'm a Lightspeed customer. Have used Lightspeed for, 10 plus years now. So check out lightspeedsystems.com. Mention us.
All right, and the last bit of news coming out of the FCC is that they announced the recipients of the cybersecurity pilot. So we had talked about this before. There's 2,734 districts and libraries that had applied for funding. They had estimated roughly $3.7 billion was requested for out of only $200 million actually available. They have announced the districts that have received funding, either in full or partial, and it's about 700 districts and libraries. So pretty cool cross-selection of large, small, urban, rural districts. We don't really have information on what these districts applied for. I think you'd probably have to go district by district and look for their submission. So we just have the list of districts, and there's other than that, the districts will be required, in addition to receiving the funding, they will have to submit reports on their progress. So a little bit higher bar than typical E-rate funding, but that's obviously going to give us data as to what's working and how well the money's being used. So pretty exciting.
Mark, I know there were some assumptions made when that list came out about what was the real grading curve or what was held in highest priority. And I think a lot of people were saying it was their free and reduced lunch status or count or percentage. Has there been anything official to support that statement?
No, that's a hard one to say. I was talking with somebody about this exact issue as to whether or not, did more money go towards the large urban districts that have it? And I think one of the pieces of feedback, I think this is very, very valuable. When you're in a larger district, you have more resources to write a more compelling grant, as well as provide the funding necessary for that, because this was a match funding grant. So, I think that it's hard to say is this causation or correlation, but right now we really don't have any formal data on who was selected and why.
Interesting.
I didn't get picked.
I didn't either.
Oh.
But some people not far from us, or a district not far from us. Well, no, 2 districts by us got picked. Yeah.
My chat GPT didn't work well enough.
Nope.
Oh, well, that might have been it. They probably just ran everything through a ChatGPT detector.
Should have used Gemini.
Yeah. That's it for the news. Nothing else whatsoever happened in the news this week.
Nope.
Nothing at all. Nothing.
No snow in DC. All right. So the main topic for tonight, Mark's been coming up with lists, man.
He's on it. He's got news. He's got topics.
It's almost like he's retired. The content he cranks out is just unbelievable. So Mark, tell us about this most recent top 10 list. We're not trying to rip off any late night shows or anything here.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot since the PowerSchool breach as to what's our response is
PowerSchool?
Yeah,
I think.
I don't use PowerSchool. There's no way any of that could happen to me, right, Mark?
Tomorrow
exactly.
You're going into the office.
We've talked a lot about where do we go from here? What do we need to do in school districts? What do we need to do with our ed tech vendors and partners? And it's really, really hard to have this conversation without talking about some of the challenges that we currently have within K12 technology and what do we need to do to improve. And so we thought we'd do is talk about the top 10 items that we as a podcast feel need to improve in order to really secure K12 education. These are things that they're not cut and dry. They're not a button click away. These are cultural changes. These are cultural changes and discussions that have to happen within school districts, that some of these you're going to have to talk with teachers and principals and make sure that leadership is bought into it. These are also things that if we as school districts can get in front of it and start to push for these things to improve, then we're going to start to also see our service providers respond as well. Because a lot of these, as we'll kind of get into these top 10 items, they require some changes on the ed tech side. The vendors and service providers that are providing these services, they're only responding to what school districts want. And so if we don't ask and we don't kind of push for these things to change and these things to improve, then the service providers are just going to continue to keep on the status quo that school districts ask for. So this is in no particular order, the top 10 things that we believe K12 needs to mature in order to improve the cybersecurity landscape for us all. Gentlemen, who wants to start with number one?
I'll do it. Unfinished MFA rollouts. MFA needs to be expanded to all accounts, including students, service accounts, and contractors. One of the things that we've talked about several times as student, is student MFA a viable option? And we talked about this before the show. This is one of those really sticky situations where, I know certain vendors have rolled out MFA for students with pick an animal or a card or a pin.
Yep.
But man, I just don't know. Well, one, those vendors still charge for that feature to be turned on and rolled out. Two, I just don't know if it's baked in enough. We had to do AMI days a couple days ago, and alternative methods of instruction. So it's a snow day, but it's not really a snow day. The kids have work that they need to be doing. And we had some elementary students that were needing to log in to hit Google Classroom. Well, a subset of our students didn't know what their Google credentials were because they use badging to log in, and their badges were at school. So yes, I understand the idea of being secure, and it's super easy for a kid to badge in and out. But if that's always left at school, or there's not another way to do that, and I worry that MFA would fall into that trap as well. Absolutely, contractors, service accounts, yes, you need app passwords. We're starting to see more and more Windows laptops roll out for admins. I really think just because that's a laptop and there's data on it and it's super mobile, that device, if you're using that device, it's getting MFA'd. Your account needs MFA on that device. So yeah, any other thoughts?
I'll offer a counterpoint. Clark County and Jefferson County were two big districts hit with cyber attacks last year that specifically targeted students.
Yeah.
And these were attackers that were going after student accounts because they knew they could use the accounts to further penetrate the district. And I think this is the reason why we need to start to think about that mindset of MFA on student accounts.
Completely.
How is the hard question. We know that kids can't bring cell phones in every, that's another trend going on right now. So cell phone MFA is not the standard way, but Indianapolis Public Schools is obviously a very large district. They have rolled out MFA to students. They did it about 5 years ago, and they did it in a kind of a different way. It was, I guess you could kind of categorize as more of like a recovery account. You have a secondary email account that's used to authorize that device. But they've proven that, pre-kindergarten and kindergarten age students can do this. And I think the number of districts onboarding Clever MFA and ClassLink MFA are showing that it can be done. But
if you pay for it.
Yeah. Right now, there are only paid options available. Number 2, FTP.
Yeah, come on.
I don't know, boys.
I think building off of the last conversation about MFA and service accounts, we all talk about service accounts for staff, but then we have all these FTP, SFTP servers hanging around with just username and passwords for authentication. So, it feels very antiquated at this point, but at the same time, we continue to ask for SFTP to move data between platforms and systems. It's just, there's so many things wrong with it from a security perspective and as well as just data integrity. So moving towards APIs, moving towards data standards like EDFI and CIF is where we'd like the industry to move. Way easier said than done.
Yeah, the industry's been working on that since the 90s.
Yeah.
Like we need something. We can't fix some of this. Like we need something bigger to happen. Like your EDFI, your A4L stuff with CIF, like when we did the A4L conference, and there was people that were around when that stuff first came out. And again, in the 90s, it'd be nice to move on, but I don't know.
But it's the hard part is like those technologies, while as great as they are, they're super complicated. And so those of us who we just don't have the time when you're working in district, that the issue of time crunch, you're like, just throw it into an FTP server and we'll call it a day. But it's not moving things.
Chris, you want to talk about ClassLink real quick since we were talking about them in item 1?
Yeah, ClassLink. Check out ClassLink.com. You know ClassLink. They can help you with your roster, your analytics, your SSO, and more. They can take your identity and access manage it from overwhelming to automated. If you do talk to ClassLink, make sure you mention our podcast, please.
Number 3, shared accounts. This is the one I hate the most, and it is such a cultural thing. Every school district has accounts that are used by multiple people. They are department accounts or school-wide accounts. You might have school name at your district domain, and it's not attached to a single person. It might be checked by the school secretary or principal or a department or group of people. And these shared accounts and even service accounts, for me, are a huge security risk because it's hard to put MFA on that. It leads to greater MFA fatigue if you've got somebody just saying yes. And then when an employee leaves, those of us in IT, we don't think to ask, well, does this person have the username and password for the shared account? So these are just kind of legacy accounts that have just been there for a very long time. We've got to take steps towards getting rid of shared and service accounts as much as possible, or at least minimizing the usage of them.
Yeah, service accounts. Google has rolled out, what do they call it? App passwords now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For their, if you've got a service account for email or something. But yeah, I've held the line pretty firmly on shared accounts. I'll do an alias if you want to like a generic alias type.
Do an alias. Do a Google group. Do a group
distribution list. Yeah.
Yep.
I think shared accounts is something you can get into the whole trenches or argument banter with a lot of different departments. They're like, yeah, we got to have shared accounts. We have these special situations for it. But I think in 2025, you can come up with something that is a solution that is not a shared account.
Yeah.
Like you can figure out something that gets you away from this.
Yeah.
Leaving AD. So there's new identity management systems or platforms like Active Directory. Is it time to abandon Active Directory? Mark, pre-show we were talking, and you said if you were walking into a school that had nothing right now, local accounts on PCs, is Active Directory the right solution, on-prem Active Directory the right solution for that district? And I think there are some pretty compelling arguments to say at least looking at Intra or Intune, whatever the cloud Active Directory solution is right now, looking at that, Google has its authentication protocol now that you can log into a Google account and have it authenticate to a PC. I don't know if Active Directory still is the solution anymore.
Yeah, I think the antiquated AD structures that we have in place, a lot of districts built their AD structure many, many years ago, and it made sense at the time. It's very, very hard to change its structure. And a lot of modern identity systems just want to provision directly into Office 365 or Google Workspace. And if I were to build a brand new school district from the ground up, I wouldn't even start with AD. I would go buy a modern ID solution, IDM, and provision directly into Google and call it a day.
Yeah.
This one hurts my head, but I think it is probably the most controversial one that we're talking about. As a veteran K12 tech, I don't see me ever. I'm going to retire on AD. This sounds like a major project. It reminds me of we're going to go from Novell to AD.
Yeah.
And it's we're going to touch every workstation. We're going to, rethink OUs. We're going to rethink policies. I'm skipping this one.
Well, but you hit the nail right on the head. Like with this one, so much of this is tied. So much of our infrastructure is tied into AD. Our devices, our accounts, to the systems we log into, to the wireless, even the printers. it's hard for us to think how to unravel AD when it's in place. But the point is, like, if you were to start from scratch, I don't think you'd start there.
Yeah, I could get there. Local admin rights. This is just easy. Like, stop it.
Yep.
It's easy if you are already there.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the first things that I did when I walked in 10 years ago or 11 years ago.
How much did people love you when you took away their ability?
Oh, I was hated.
Yeah,
like there were tears. Yeah, but
we remember.
I don't really care.
But extend this, like, you're the tech director in your district. Do you have local admin rights on your machine?
On my daily driver? No.
Good for you. Good for you. I think that's not necessarily the norm, though.
No, I would agree. And to be honest, it wasn't that scenario 4 years ago. It only happened when we moved to MFA protecting our admin accounts. That I made, and there's only 4 people in my district that have any sort of elevated account. Every one of them, their daily driver is a standard account, and they only elevate when they need to run an application as an elevated privilege. But before that, yeah, my daily driver was an admin account. Absolutely. Because
this is one that still sits out there as like, at my school district, we took that away from, faculty staff. I mean, that's been a long time ago. And you just you act like it's a low hanging fruit, but I mean, we've heard the stories of the large school district that still let their teachers be local admins.
Yeah.
Or I always used to get there easy with the small school district, the one person show, that they will get more tickets than they can take on the burden of if they take away those rights. So you're balancing, I mean, just like functionality, and you'd be like, yeah, I know it's not best practice, but it makes sense for the small school. Yeah. I think this is still very relevant in 2025. Like, but we're seeing it. Like, you need to figure out how to get away from it.
Yeah.
But it might not be the easiest path for a lot of school IT guys.
Yeah. And even if, you may not have local admin rights on user devices, end user devices, but there's still a lot of local admin accounts on the most critical pieces of infrastructure and IT department devices and things like that. And those are arguably the ones that you need to protect first and foremost. So.
Well, and I think this is worth stating too, that if you're not using LAPS, local admin password system, whatever the hell it stands for, it's built into Windows now. Mm-hmm. You need to be using LAPS with AD. It randomizes the local admin password, resets it however many days you tell it to reset it, and stores it in an Active Directory so that you can see it if you ever do need to log in with the local computer admin account. If you're not using LAPS, LAPS, look it up. And it literally took me 10 minutes to get configured and running, and all of a sudden I'm saving, like, all of my admin accounts are randomized now. There's really not a reason to not be doing that.
If you connect some of the ones that we talked about in terms of local admin rights, Active Directory, and shared accounts, right now you've got the top 3 reasons why districts get taken out because a tech account or a service account on a device gets compromised. And that virus, that person, that threat actor just spreads across the district.
Yep.
So those 3 things together are...
and we're actually blaming Microsoft for all of that, right?
Well, I mean...
like, we're not talking about Apple and Google right now.
Well,
it's our choices that we have made in the usage of it. I'm sure that's what a Microsoft lawyer would say.
Sure. Unmanaged browsers. The Wild West of being able to install any browser extension is going to end up biting you. You don't have to go too far back in the news, over the last month even, the number of browser extensions that turned out to be malicious code or have been taken over by companies with malicious code. There was like a span of 2 weeks there where it felt like it was every other day there was a story breaking about it. The days of not managing what extensions can be installed in your browser environments.
Yeah, that was an end. And that's, it hasn't been officially confirmed by PowerSchool, but the TechCrunch article did say that PowerSchool's, engineer was breached by a Chrome extension or a browser extension that had gone bad. So this is, I think this is the area that while a lot of districts might have taken local admin rights away from users, we still are very loose with our browser management. And that's something that it's going to take more attacks and more breaches before we see the reason for it. But that's a big area to change, but that's really hard. Like, teachers and school staff feel ownership over their browser. They've never had somebody else manage their browser and their browser extensions. So taking that away is painful. Yep. But that's number 6.
Standalone usernames and passwords. So we're back to this SSO conversation, and we had a couple weeks ago. If you're not leveraging, I was a holdout. I'll admit I was a holdout. But if you're not leveraging SSO from some sort of authority, be it Google, Office 365, or whatever it's called now, OAuth, or not OAuth, damn it, I can't think of it. You really need to be doing that so people aren't reusing passwords. Have I been pwned? You'd be less of a target with individual accounts on how many different websites. Start really leveraging SSO, and you can doubly protect yourself that way too if you have MFA turned on those accounts.
I was really excited when I started in my new district that they had already rolled out MFA. So I thought, this is great. We've already half the battle's already done. And then I got my account in PowerSchool, and nope, not using single sign-on. It's all standalone usernames and passwords. So it kind of defeats the purpose of rolling out MFA.
There's not going to be a breach.
That wasn't a weak point, Mark.
Yeah. Which is funny because I'm going to extend it to number 8, which is when my account was granted in the SIS, it was using my personal email account. And that number 8 is the use of personal accounts in district systems. And this is one you're either solid and rock solid on this one, or it's a hot mess. And for me, it's such a thorn in my side when I see personal accounts used in district systems. You have zero control over that account, over MFA, over authentication. Well, it kills me.
I will say the SIS that we use allows staff members or parents to change their email addresses in the parent portal. And if it's a staff member that is a parent and they change their email address to where their primary email address is their personal email address, it breaks a bunch of things. So the whole personal account thing being used at school, I'll go one step further, Mark. Personal data in a school account. The amount of times we've had to have conversations with someone because their tax returns or their divorce decree or mortgage statement or credit app to buying a car is in their Google Drive, and they tried sharing it externally, and I'm getting DLP notifications because of it. That has to stop.
Let me chase a little rabbit. Like, and I've not really thought about this, but what would be the thought? Are you okay with your staff member accessing their personal email on a school device? Like, they get into their Hotmail account, they get into their personal Gmail.
So
because I'm thinking this. I'm thinking this as we're talking through this, and I've allowed that.
So and the conversation that has been had has been, the second that you attempt to prevent that, all you're doing is asking them to send more personal email to their school account. So you end up with more of that personal communication in a district owned asset. Then if you're blocking access to Hotmail, or you prevent logging into @gmail.com from the school computer. Is that the right answer? I don't know.
That's a weird, odd circle thing that we're talking through. We're going to put up all these fences, and then I'm letting personal Gmail happen.
Yeah.
This
is an example of something where it bothers me sometimes that edtech providers and vendors allow personal accounts into their systems, but I also know that they're just responding to their customers, that districts, districts are asking for this. Can you make this account? And so I'm always happy when a system is locked down to only the accounts that we provision, that, it has to be within our account. I have a horror story of an edtech vendor that sent a list. It was a free service, and they sent a list of all the accounts that were in our district, and it was horrifying to see the personal accounts and other school districts' email accounts that were authorized into our domain.
Oh, geez.
And this was, this is security that we have to ask for this, and enough of us have to ask for this to be security for our ed tech vendors to allow it or to enforce that kind of stuff. But that's a cultural change. We all know that districts are in school staff, sometimes they use their personal and their school staff interchangeably.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call out somebody who lives in my household, but like the number of times I see her she's got her personal browser profile and her work browser profile and just uses those two interchangeably and doesn't I need you to check the icon that's in the upper right before you start Googling stuff. So that's cultural change. It's technical training, and it's really, really hard to turn that stone over.
Yeah, there's some, ask yourself the questions on if you're using Google, what's your drive sharing settings like? We've had teacher way in the past of she was trying to do a right thing.
Yeah.
Not do work account at home, but then she was sharing all files externally with personal account, which we were allowing, then whatever, that's bad.
Yeah.
So then when we're investigating what kind of external shares and stuff we got going on, we have some red flags going on. You fix those settings or whatever stuff, but it's a good look to think about what you let your people share.
Yeah. Number 9, manual account provisioning.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of this.
Yeah. You need to be, partially, I put the blame of this at the foot of the ed tech vendors as much as the districts. More vendors need to be supporting rostering and account creation via an interface engine like ClassLink, or via SFTP if they don't support ClassLink or Clever type interfaces. But manually create, no. Yeah, no, I think between OneRoster, Clever, and ClassLink, there's enough options on the table now that everybody, all the ed tech applications and vendors should support this. The good news about this is we've seen that industry change over the last few years. Yeah.
But, the freemium stuff is where they get you. And you have a lot of teachers who sign up for free and make their class list. And we have to, as an industry, push away from that. And say these are very, very dangerous habits when you have people manually creating accounts, because it's not the manual work is not the problem. It's the deprovisioning or lack thereof that has to happen. And if you're not deprovisioning accounts, you have no control over data when an employee leaves or a student leaves your district. So that's a cultural change, and it's chicken or the egg. Do the ed tech vendors push for it, or do the school districts ask for it? And both have to happen at the same time.
It's culture and it's procedure.
Yeah.
We had a struggle for a while of knowing when one staff member was transferred from one building to another, and that matters.
Yeah.
And it wasn't malicious that tech department wasn't in the loop, but we weren't in the loop. Right. So we weren't changing these manual accounts. We weren't changing them to the right permissions and stuff because we didn't know. Or the person that leaves, and we just didn't get told. So all these accounts are just at the they're just wide open.
Number 10.
We use level data for students, which has been good. We struggle with staff stuff. We do a lot of manual stuff with staff still.
Well, and we're going to post a K12 Tech Pro article shortly about this. And I mentioned the challenge with staff data is it sucks. Find a school district where the HR department's management of staff data is flawless. And I'm talking about all the different categories of student teachers, contractors, vendors, interns, parent volunteers, on top of all your full-time employees. That data doesn't always necessarily sit in the HR system. And then that makes it hard for us in IT to automate and provision these things.
Yeah, we tried to automate staff, and this isn't really a knock on these departments, but these areas, but the time between board approval and then the actual start date to HR with payroll and the paperwork, and they do background check to when the person's actually showing up in the building and wanting a tech account.
Yep.
though it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And what is in the system that I would be pulling from, it's not ready.
Yeah.
Or even the person is terminated immediately, but the above them where they're getting paid, their paycheck is coming later. So they're not deactivated yet.
Yeah.
And that system doesn't have the ability to put in a later date, kind of stuff. It's just hard.
Yep.
But you're right. We need to get there.
Yeah.
It needs to be a focus, a priority.
Chris, before we hit our last one, do you want to talk about CTL?
Yeah, CTL hanging out with us throughout 2025. They do Chromebooks. So if you're looking at refreshing your Chromebooks, check out CTL. They have a new line of Chromebooks for 2025. They promise good performance. They promise good Wi-Fi. Their Google end of life stuff as well into the next decade kind of thing. So check out CTL. They'll even hook you up with resources to help you run your one-to-one program to help with mastering your Chromebook deployment. So check out CTL. I think it's ctl.net/2025 to get you started.
And finally, Mark.
Data hoarding. We're so bad at this. We hoard on to every piece of data. We keep it in our system. We put everything in our sys, and the PowerSchool breach has definitely shown school districts that nobody is immune. And for me, I think as a culture, we need to start to think about data expiration dates and when are you getting rid of this? And rather than holding on to a student's entire digital record for years and years and years, at what point are you purging those records from your system? So I think I hope of all these things, I hope that's the biggest thing that comes out of this is that we as an industry begin to talk about purging data, both school districts and vendors. But I still have an entire 5th grade classroom library in my basement because I think that someday I'm just going to need a whole bunch of kids books. And like, yes. I can't bring it to throw that stuff away. And we take the same approach with data in school districts. We just keep it.
I agree.
I have a folder that's a year and I keep all my random docs and crap in it. And then next year I make a new folder that's a year and I don't delete any of it.
Oh yeah. I don't.
I have it all.
Nope. I don't delete any mail and I'm a note taker. Like I have to pen to paper note take when I'm doing things. I have every notebook I've written in since I've been at my school.
I won't say what school this was at and stuff, but I got a new job one time. And one of the first things I saw was in the office refrigerator, like the freezer, there was some hard drives that someone thought that were being preserved. Why are we keeping this? But two, did we really think we're going to pull them out of the freezer and spin them up someday?
Well, we've put Chromebooks in a freezer to kill bugs before. Our food service director came in one day. She's like, "Why is there a Chromebook in the freezer?" Yeah.
Wow.
In our office freezer, not where kids get food before you get all bent.
I've had zero conversations about how long should we keep this data and should we set a time on it.
Agree.
But I've had a lot of conversations about how much more storage we need to get. like the contrast of those conversations over the years.
Yeah.
There's a clear winner.
Yeah. When you get those phone calls from a student that graduated in 1993, hey, can I have a copy of my vaccine record from my senior year in high school?
Yes, you can. We saved it. We have your artwork too. You want that?
But like, I mean, I don't know if your school district still has like the paper cumulative folders, but like if you open up,
we have to,
like a high school kid's cumulative folder and you see like the hand turkey drawings from when they were in kindergarten, like why are we keeping this?
Yeah.
And realistically, teachers don't use that. They don't they'll look at the data in the system. They might open up the paper cumulative folders, but we just put paper in a folder and pass it on. And we do the same thing in our systems. We put data in the systems and then we just keep it. And so I would like to personally see a whole lot of purging going on from our data systems. obviously within your state's statutes. But we've got to get to a point where you're not calling alumni and saying, I'm really sorry, but your data was stolen.
Yeah. From 1973.
Also, and your kids, because you're that old and you have kids in the system and their data was also stolen. So,
and you didn't move. All right, Chris, our last sponsor for tonight.
Fortinet. Again, I keep talking about 2025, I think, because this is some things that we need to knock out or try to knock out in 2025. But Fortinet hanging out with us this year. Email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. I'll say that this is a little bit of segue, I think, into talking about, they are also K12 Tech Pro sponsors. And today, pretty cool day. We hit 1,000 members, which is really exciting, a cool milestone. We are finally in every state. New Mexico, talking to you. You took forever to join. There's one tech now in New Mexico, but exciting day. And Fortinet has been hanging out with us since the very beginning of podcast of K12 Tech Pro. So check out Fortinet podcast at Fortinet.com. And if you're not on K12 Tech Pro, this is the plug for that. Join us. It is a great community.
One of us.
Yeah. I don't know. It's exciting to be a part of. And yeah, I say that because I'm in it, and I help run it. But there are great people on there sharing great tips, great resources. You post a question, you're going to get an answer. We just announced today this cool partnership with ChromebookParts.com with WISE certifications. K12 Tech Pro members can get a reduced cost to get Chromebook certification for doing repairs, can get reduced cost for your Chromebook parts for your school district. Pretty cool stuff. And there's all kinds of good perks in there. We try to act like it's a secret club, and it kind of is. I think we're at like close to 20 perks that you get as a pro member. The Chromebook parts stuff to me is just really cool because it's impactful in the school. Technicians, you can get certified now. It's a legit certification, and you can save money on the parts that you're buying now for your school to fix these things. So shout out Fortinet, shout out K12 Tech Pro. Join us if you haven't already.
So reminder, in 2 weeks will be episode 200, and there is a special guest list. Chris, are they names that our listeners will know?
Some of them. Let me look at my list again, Josh. Let me just.
And why would they? Why if they?
I would say about half. It's going to be an instant, like, yes. And then there's some twists and turns going on. There might be some that you guys are like, we don't know who walked in the door, Chris. Would you please introduce us?
Are we talking to your mom? Is your mom coming on?
My mom?
Yeah.
Or Mark's mom?
No, your mom.
There's going to be some random guy, and you're like, who is this guy? And he's like, I'm the one that spilled barbecue sauce on the trash can at Disney World.
I found him, guys. I found him.
Oh, if he only told the other part of that story. Oh,
we got to let it go. Suspense. Hey, next week, we're going to be virtually at the Secure Ed Conference. I'll put a link to that in the podcast description. We're doing 2 sessions. And I think the little teaser is that Mark is creating both of them. Right. Right, Mark? Please.
That's right.
And we're again talking 2025 for some reason today. We have a lot of trips planned, and we're going to be at a lot of different events. We're going to start to post those and promote those a little better. Some of those maybe we're just attending, but we want to, if you listen to this and you're at some of these things that we're going to be at, we want to talk to you, say hi to you kind of thing. So we'll talk those up a little bit.
I think Chris is traveling so much he is a part-time resident of Missouri now.
We'll see. I might move to Boston.
That was New Hampshire. You're going to New Hampshire.
Live free.
Yeah,
or die.
Yeah,
die.
They're softening the or die part.
Are they?
Yeah. Like, there's a whole bunch of billboards in Boston that have, like, for New Hampshire, like, come on up and visit us. And it just says live free. Or, like, we know the rest of that slogan.
You're not fooling anybody.
You can't fool us. We know you're going to kill us if we don't break free.
All right. That was episode 198.
200's coming.
200's coming. We don't know what it is. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.